and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Dagla dang war je pe dra, no par je pe ke. Tharpa dang tam che kien pe bar du cho par je pe tam che ki so je pe. Manam kadang nyam pe sem chen tam che de wa dang den. Dug now dang drill your du lana me pa yang dag par zog pe chang chu ren po che to par sha. Action Bodhicitta prayer. Thus until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. De che du sang ma ge ki bar du lu nagi sam ge wala ko. Ma she bar du lu nyagi sam ge wala ko. Du de ring ne sang te ni ma sang da sam gi bar du lu nagi sam ge wala ko. Long refuge prayer. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Dren Chin Sawa Dong Yu Par Je Pe Pel Den Lam Adam Ta Nam La Kyab Su Chi O. Yeram Kilgor Gi La Sok Nam La Kyab Su Chi O. Sangye Chongde Din Dam La Kyab Su Chi O. Dem Pa Cho Nam La Kyab Su Chi O. Bog Pe Gen Dun Nam La Kyab Su Chi O. Pa Wo Kan Ro Cho Kyung Sung Me So Ge She Ki Chin Dang Den Pa Nam La Kyab Su Chi O. Taking the Bodhisattva vow. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Zhang Chu Ying Por Chi Ki Bar Sange Nam La Kyab Su Chi Cho Dang Zhang Chub Senpai Yi Shou La Yang De Shen Kyab Su Chi Jitar Nonggi De Shek Ki Zhang Chub Tug Na Ki Pa Dang Zhang Chub Senpai La Pa La De Dag Rim Shen Ne Pa Tar De Shindro Lak Pendon Du Jang Chub Sim Ni Ke Ji Shing De Shindu Ni Lab Pa La Rim Pa Shindu Lab Par Ji. Short refuge prayer. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye Chodang Sogki Chog Nam La Chang Chu Bardu Dag Ni Kyab Su Chi Dagi Jun Sok Chi Pe So Nam Ki Drola Pinchir Sangye Dru Par Shok. The four immeasurables. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam ka dang nam pe sem chen tam she de wa dang den de wei yu dang den par jor chi. Dug nao gi gu dang dra war jor chi. Dug nao me pe de wa dang mi dra war jor chi. Ne ring chak dang ni dang dra wei tang yom le ne par jor chi.
And then if you will do page 12, the Sagarmati requested sutra, please. Just in English.
Likewise be extinguished. Extinguish
all enemies to my purpose.
Whatever evil forces are in me, be defeated. Do this so that when I am victorious, all pure radiance melts into me, completely purified. Take all this knowledge, food and drink peacefully. Enjoy it and be satisfied so that all obstacles may be destroyed. Be liberated from all obstacles, all general obstacles. Maras are defeated by this gesture of the Buddha. By reciting this mantra, may all Maras be purified. As a result, may all Maras be defeated.
Very good. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Everybody good with that? Okay. So what we've been talking about on Monday nights, this past session that we've been engaged with, I think tonight might be the seventh of eight sessions. We've been talking about developing a practice and what that practice is. So we talked about doing these opening prayers. We talked about the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. We talked about the stages of meditation, meditating on love, loving kindness, of compassion, bodhicitta. And then on Sunday, yesterday, we even did a little bit of a practice on shamatha meditation using the mantra as a focal point for our mind and so on. So rather than go into more talk about the shamatha, and we need to do practice in it and so on, but I think we also need at this point to be have a support of understanding what it is that we're doing, why we're doing this a little bit more. So we're trying to develop a daily practice is about training your mind. Our mind has been trained, has been to be doing so many different things. And what we're trying to do is to break through our monkey mind, to develop one-pointed mindfulness. So all this is leading up to helping us to develop the support of that one-pointed mindfulness. That one-pointed mindfulness still has things that are happening in there. You know, as we're trying to develop it, we may be able to hold it together for 5 seconds or 10 seconds before some thought comes into us and so on. So it takes work to be able to put that together. It takes a plan, it takes a routine, it takes a commitment to be able to do all that. So this mindfulness is what we're trying to generate, to keep us from this constant grasping at all these thoughts that we have. So in the beginning, we developed the establishment of these prayers and the recitations to harness our wild mind that is jumping around like that. And what our goal here is that we experience enlightenment through several different methods. One is through study. We can study our way to enlightenment. And we have to have a very positive attitude. We have to have a very positive place in which to work. We have to have a very positive set of books to study or teachings to study and so on. But, you know, for most of us, we need a little bit more human connection. We need to have support. We need to have a teacher with us to help us to do that. So that study can be receiving teachings, listening to the teachings, and then applying it to the books when we have time in our own place, and to be able to develop our own contemplation of what this all means. So we can contemplate our way to enlightenment, you know, by going through and thinking about all these different various things. And as we go, we're exhausting all these possibilities. We've come to the realization, well, I still haven't received, I still haven't achieved enlightenment. I've been studying these books, I've been doing this, but I still haven't gotten there. You know, but we continue to do it, and we're trying, we're contemplating, but then we might get to a point where we've exhausted all the different possibilities of our contemplation, and then we just rest. We're just calm. We're just peaceful. And at that point, that's when the meditation begins. That's when the quietude begins. Our monkey mind just settles down. So all this study, all this receiving teachings, all this contemplation, all this listening and so on, all this processing, all this, all leads to that peaceful, rested mind. So And so, as I say, that's when we reach the meditation. We have that experience that we don't realize that we're having it as we're having it. That's how we know that we had it, because when we come out of that, because we're still ordinary beings who have had the benefit of a meditation experience. And when we come out of that meditation experience, our little mind, our intellectual mind, catches up with what was our big mind, because that meditation is opens up our big mind, our heart mind. And then we say, oh, there it was. And we begin to build on that as that experience can deepen, can widen. We can see more wisdom in there. We recognize that we have this connection point, not only with each other, but with all the Buddhas, all the enlightened ones, all the Bodhisattvas. So it's an experiential event that happens. We have to open ourselves up to the experience. So all this other study, all this contemplation is leading up to that point where we can exhaust all of that and say, okay, this is something that's even beyond our human comprehension, something that has to be experienced with our heart center. What do you think of that? Does anybody have a problem with that? What doubts do you have about that? What experience do you have with that?
Lance, I am so consumed with fear, and I'll be courageously honest in saying that. I read this thing on the internet today about what it's like to be wealthy and then become homeless, and I have kids, and these fears eat at me, and I can't imagine through any amount of meditation and study becoming so at peace that I am not plagued by these fears, many of them irrational. And I'm not saying I don't want to achieve that. I'm just saying it's a doubt in my mind I could ever get there, being honest.
Well, having said that, I mean, do you have an aspiration for that?
To be homeless or to be
No,
enlightened?
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand. Are you making a connection with being a meditative practitioner and being homeless? Are you making that connection? Or are
No,
you
I'm
just saying that you got to continue to work hard so you don't get to that point?
right. I've got to continue to always be
Oh,
on top of my game and do whatever I'm asked of by my employer, so that it's never a possibility. I guess that's
so then you don't defeat yourself by stop paying attention to the mundane stuff.
exactly.
Well, there is a balance there. You're right.
Yeah,
We have to be practical about this, and whether or not we can attain enlightenment in this lifetime is we can say that's a pretty big ask to be
yeah,
able to do that.
yeah. And there's perhaps a better way to explain what I'm saying is I hear of certain practitioners, certain monks in Tibet who just they don't care what happens to them because they're so at peace, and there's zero fear, and getting to that point seems very amazing to me versus where I am right now. That's probably a better way to put it.
Okay, but do you think that stops you from moving in that direction?
No, no.
Okay, okay, and that's healthy. That's fine. That's fine. That makes sense. Anybody else have an experience or have thoughts or doubts or something that you want to discuss about this?
I have doubts. I've been hearing you many times talk about these meditative experiences, and I never had anything like that.
Okay. Why do you think
Um,
that is?
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you think it has anything to do? And I'm not being, I don't want to be too harsh or anything like that, but isn't it a question of being able to commit to this system and to be able to commit to the process of training our mind? And to do that, we have to develop, we talk about the daily practice, which is what we're really focused on right now, but then have that when we get that stable, and we're doing that regularly, but then to engage in weekend retreats and then maybe week-long retreats and so on, to be able to grow that mindfulness where there's more and more depth in that meditative state. You think it has anything to do with that?
Lance, we live in the storm of life. And for me, and I don't believe I'm the only one, but we can't be like the monks. I mean, we could choose to be if we chose to.
Well, that's the point. I don't want to go too far down that hole there, but is it as difficult as it is?
Mm-hmm.
Is it an aspiration? Is it something that you want to work toward?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. But recognizing while doing that the storm of life, we call it samsara, it intervenes.
Well, yes, it does, but it's our choice too.
Okay,
and
to some extent, not completely.
wait a minute. Go ahead, Matthew. You wanted to say something?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
I was just gonna say, Kay, what is like the meditative experience that you're not having that you want to be having? Like, what is it that you are kind of looking for in terms of, or would mean by that meditative experience? Does that make sense?
Yes, well, that's a really good question. And let me ask Gary, or let me ask Kate, ask all of you. What do you think that meditative experience will bring to you, that will arise in your life? What do you think it would bring? Kate, what do you think?
I don't understand that question.
What do you think the meditation brings to your life? What do you think, what change happens in your life that comes as a result of the meditation? What do you think that will be?
Well, when I used to have a more successful meditative practice, though it was nothing like what you described, I was calmer, and it was like I could slow things down.
Okay. Okay.
I'd be content just to get back to that point.
Okay.
Some of the things you talk about seem more transcendent. I've never had anything like that.
Okay. Gary, what do you think?
Well, I have periods of that type of calm. I have to seek them out. And I think that's what the meditative experience is. It's since we can't live in the forest like the Buddha, since we live in this storm of life, we have to make room in our life for the meditative experience. And because life, our family.
So what do you think? What do you think that meditative experience brings to you?
A sense of separation and detachment from the things that are swirling around me that I cannot control.
Okay.
All
right, let's stop right there. All right, let's stop right there. Let's not go too far down that hole.
Okay. You think it's a hole?
All right. Brendan, what would you say? And I want to ask Emma, I want to ask everybody what you have to say about this, because it's an important point. It's what the goalpost is. What's the goal? We need to have the goal. What does the meditation bring to us? Brendan, what would you say?
I would like to not be so afraid, as I talked about earlier. And I read a lot. I read a lot of Buddhist fiction and Buddhist writings, and one of the characters talks about the grasping which has dominated the continuum for 1,000 years, right? Past lives, melts under the power of the Buddha, and I experience a few seconds of peace. I think that would probably, that's a good way in literature to describe what I would like. And then beyond that, you get into, I don't know, I've heard of secret mantras and secret knowledge, and I'm way far from that. But maybe that would be nice in a few lifetimes, perhaps.
So if we can consolidate that statement down, what do you think the meditation brings to you?
Peace.
Okay. Emma, what would you say?
Well, I'm struggling with some stress health issues right now, and my doctor literally prescribed me to concentrate on something for 15 minutes a day to de-stress my nervous system. But before that, because I used to be a really, really calm person, I almost want to say meditation's like unplugging, but it's more like plugging into the bigger pic. Like you're not unplugging, it seems, but you're plugging into something that's more in tune with things. Like the way I was describing it before was like the world is so loud and the truth is very subtle. So you have to like turn the volume down to really hear the truth. At least that's my personal experience.
Would you say it could be described as maybe a harmony or something like that?
Yeah, resonance or something. Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, music, can relate to music a lot. Yeah. I like that harmony. Because yeah, it's not changing anything. It's just being, and that's my stress thing is like, oh, I shouldn't be this way. And they're like, you have every reason to be this way right now. So yeah, meditation is just watching it and not changing it and seeing where it goes. Yeah.
Well, that's a very good point about not changing. You know, there's, you know, to attain that level, you're not changing as much as you're recognizing. You know, something that has been there, but you just haven't recognized it, and then you harmonize with it, and then maybe, as Brendan says, you know, there's this peacefulness that washes over you. You know that you. Okay. Matt, what would you say?
I mean, I guess in the sense of what I would like to kind of foster or develop is certainly like a sense of contentment and peace and stopping the ways I like torture myself in my mind, probably similar to the way lots of other people do. But yeah, and in terms of like meditative experiences, I mean, I've had a few meditative experiences before that were, you know, very different, very like where, you know, things seem very vast and like doing some practices like self-inquiry. I don't know if you're familiar with like Ramana Maharshi, or it's very much like giving yourself pointing out instructions kind of thing, like who am I, where am I, who's doing this kind of thing that like turn the mind back in on like that sense of self. And so I've had a few experiences like that where it seems like things are just like very big and it's almost like everything is like within the awareness, within the conscious, and those type of experiences, one of which was really very beautiful, amazing experience, one of which was kind of terrifying, to be honest. But other than that, like I'm not like a skilled good meditator. I mean, everyone probably says that, but like I've a lot of difficulty with focusing my mind and stuff, like really bad monkey mind things. But with, I mean, but I guess that's kind of what I see as like the steps overall, is like getting some kind of sense of contentment and stopping these cycles of things that are just making me unhappy that I do over and over and over again. Yeah. And I mean, one thing you said that I don't know as much, I don't know about or have doubt about is, no, then later you said it's kind of a step, but like whether someone can like really have these kind of things through just like intellectual pursuits, like through just like study or learning. I don't think that someone can like really transform their mind just through that in these kind of ways. I mean, maybe that's possible. I don't know, but
Well, with our limited minds, we can't say for sure that they can or they can't.
oh, for sure. I mean, I don't know, of course, but that's
So we
kind
have
of my
to.
take on
So
it.
we have to always leave that door open, you know. And for somebody, it may be possible, and for the rest of us, it's not, or something like that. But all the information is there. It's a matter of recognizing it. You know, that's this point that I'm trying to make now, is this recognition of what is natural, what who we are, what that natural state, what is that natural meditative state that we should have as our goal that we're thinking about. Let me ask Karina, what do you think? Can you answer the question? What do you think is the goal? What do you think is the result of the meditation?
Will bring calm and crush it thought correctly, like things, like make you think correctly, and this is like change your reality to better way, because many things that we have, it's not like our things, it's like things from the world, what we get from some people, some TV, internet, but like what people, when he meditate, like they know his true way, like
I
what
didn't
is
understand that last sentence. Say that last sentence again, please, or rephrase
like
it.
sorry, meditation like change your things like to more right
More
and clean.
correct, more
Yes,
correct, more virtuous. Is it a question of being virtuous, or is it just being a question of being on the right path or something like that?
yes, right path.
Okay. And what's that
And
path lead you to? The path is like a roadway, and where do you think that path leads you to?
it's like about the last chakra. You just calm your energy to the up, and there it's true. Like there it's you true, and your like transcendent reality, and it's like everything into success to you, and you're divine. You come more divine, human, sure, like from meditation.
More holy.
Holy, yeah.
Okay. All right, Gavin, what would you say? What do you think is the goal of your meditation?
The goal of the way I perceive meditation is to focus on my light body, and centers are out of alignment. I would go into meditation and focus on the realignment of the light body so I could regain power of my pineal gland and sit in the crystalline throne. Because there scientifically are 30,000 microcrystals that make up the pineal gland. And once I can sit in the throne of my own gland, I can activate my crown. And then through that, I become attuned with past lives and future lives, and really get the download of where my next move is, like whether that is coming to me from a higher source or it's just my full self activated because of the alignment of the light body and the sitting in the pineal throne and then putting the crown on. I could ascertain the best trajectory of the next movement through samsara. That's
So
ultimately
if you could condense that down or simplify that down to a word or a phrase, how would you describe that?
Zen, to move through reality in Zen, as if I'm meditating completely every day, and every behavior I am is in complete harmonistic Zen, for knowing that I breathe with intention, I walk with intention, I eat with intention, I think with intention, and um, paying respect to the self. I meditate on which chakras are out of alignment. If I am sensing anxiety, then perhaps my crown is not in the center. Or if I'm sensing fear, there's a lower chakra must get realigned, and it's all through the spine and this light body that is the human form.
Okay.
Mine comes from a more mystical background, you know.
Yes.
And you clean your mind from negative thoughts. It's also like very important because you don't have this is negative emotion,
Yes.
but it's like take so much your power and energy every day, and you think clear, and all you think happen very, very faster, like in reality.
Okay.
Lads, can I ask a question of
Sure.
what he was talking about chakra alignment and the pineal gland, and of course his response seemed to me to be very scientific, and I'm wondering if he's thinking about meditation as a way of releasing melatonin, which is what the pineal gland is associated with. And was that what he was, meditating and through meditation generating a greater release of this calming chemical, which is natural to us through the body? Was that his process?
Well, I don't know. We'd have to ask him, but
I think I
don't want to go too far down that hole. It's
well, I just want to know what he meant.
To be in Zen, the word Zen is to be meditating while you are alive and you not even sitting down.
Well, isn't that called Satori?
Satori.
That's what they call the state. That's what they call the state. That's the object of Zen. That's the result of Zen. Is to have the Satori experience.
Interesting.
So look that up. SATO.
So the melatonin, yeah, that's very interesting. I'm not sure how to explain it, but
well, let me kind of circle back.
It's like same.
What's that? What'd you say?
Same like samadhi.
Samadhi. It's like samadhi. It is Zen. Satori is the Japanese version, the Japanese word that they would use for samadhi. Yes. Or Mahamudra or Dzogchen. But I want to circle back because quite some time ago, Gary and I had a conversation and we talked about the quietude. He brought up the word, the quietude. And I love that word. I thought that was great because in that state of meditation, there is this quietude. You can be in the midst of sitting on the median strip on the Beltway with traffic going down in all directions and horns blaring and motorcycles going by and everything. But if you're in that state of quietude, none of that is interfering with that quietude, that peacefulness. And that becomes an analogy. That's a metaphor for what Gary was just talking about, all this stuff that's happening in life and so on. This stuff has always been happening in life and will always continue to happen in life. And it's a question of our being able to be able to compartmentalize it and not let it affect our quietude, that peacefulness. So I think peace is generally accepted as the one word that kind of gives us a conceptual idea without too many combinations of possibilities of what this meditation mind is. It's peaceful, it's quiet amidst all the other stuff that is going on. And we don't have to have a whole bunch of lives to have that. We could have that now. By whatever degree we can do that. But if that's our goal, then we have something now to work for. Can we say to ourselves as we're going through all these different processes of meditation and so on, does this give me peace? Do I have peace as a result of this? Or is this giving me anxiety? You know, is this creating a fear within me? Or am I recognizing this as something I can't have? Am I envious or jealous? You know, so we look at the poisons and so on, so we can analyze it by that. And depending on what our answer is, you know, depends on, you know, where we need to be focused and so on. So we need help doing this. For us to do this by ourselves is very difficult, very frustrating, because our monkey mind is driving us in different directions. We want these different things. Plus, we're complicated by our sense of, well, am I wasting time? Am I not doing this right? And do I need some outside help? Do I need some constructive criticism to help focus me on what my chore is? What is my work to become enlightened, to have this meditation mind? Does this make sense? Can you relate to that, what I just said? Does that make some sense?
Yes.
So that's what the Dharma is all about, you know, is being able to explain to us the stuff that we are fixating on, you know, but at the same time to show us what it is that we should be fixating on, or how we overcome those things that we are erroneously fixating on, to be able to calm them down so that we can have the result that we're looking for, which is that peace. So one way of doing this is, of course, is reading and studying and hearing about the biographies of those who have had these experiences. I mean, that's a really great thing to do. We read about the Dharma, you know, which is all the system, you know, all the structure of all this. But to hear other people talk about it and what their experience has been is very enriching. You know, it gives us a great deal of comfort and confidence that we can attain this ourselves. That here are testimonies of ordinary people who have employed these teachings, used these teachings, and have had a result that, yeah, I'd like to have that result. So one of these things, one of these techniques of learning about the great beings is this 37 practices of the Bodhisattva. So this was written by this monk who lived, you know, 700 or 800 years ago. And it has obviously stood the test of time, but it gives us an idea of what it is to be a bodhisattva. So let me refresh our memories on that. Here we are, we're ordinary people. We're beginners on this path of the Buddha Dharma, what we call the Buddha Dharma, to be awakened. Okay, we don't know what it is. It's like a 2,000-piece jigsaw puzzle that we're given without a picture, and we got to put all the pieces together. So we're at that state when we're trying to form the corners and the edges, you know, the straight edge pieces, and we haven't even started with the interior too very much. But then as we get the frame, now we become a practitioner. We say, you know what, I'm going to work on this puzzle every day. And maybe I'll get 2 or 3 pieces to fit. Remember, you got 2,000 pieces to work with. So maybe I'm going to establish a routine where I'm going to sit down for a few minutes, whatever time I can commit to, and I'm going to try and put a few pieces together. So that's a practitioner. That's what we do as a practitioner. We're going to regularly engage in practice. And we've been building up to say, here is the practice that you should start with. There's other systems that maybe you would feel better with, and you're welcome to do that. But if you want to follow this system, here is the way to do it. You know, and if you do this over time, you're going to have some success. You're going to start having breakthroughs. You're going to start having clarity. You're going to start having moments of peace. If that's our goal, you're going to start seeing moments of peace if you follow this. But if you don't follow it, or all you do is find fault and doubt with it, it's not going to work for you. You gotta break through. You got to make the commitment. So that's a practitioner. Then, as we break through, and now we find this peacefulness, we find all this symmetry, we find all this clarity in the way all this is working. Everything's beginning to line up. I can say that these things came because of these things happening. I can see the causality of this. I can predict that things will happen because I can understand the causality. I can understand the actions that I need to take, and I can predict the results, whether they're good results or they're bad results. So this is being one who is in union. This is called a yogi who is a male, or a yogini who is a female. We're in union. We've broken through the part of being a practitioner. That's not a question anymore. Now it's a question of being in union with all of this stuff and seeing all the disparate stuff that is all on the path. When we're on the path, we're seeing the dualistic nature. We're seeing all the myriad combinations of things that we can do, but we're not spooked by it. We're just lining them up. We're just seeing how they work. And we're comfortable with that. And then, after we maintain that, then we start getting to where we really begin to simplify, and we become a wholly enlightened being. We become a bodhisattva. A bodhisattva is a wholly enlightened being. And on this path of being a bodhisattva, we're going through these levels of purity where we are still purifying some of our afflictive emotions, the things that are based on the 5 poisons, the things, the 84,000 emotions that we talked about way back when, in the beginning of our Buddhist conversations, that there were 84,000 emotions. So now we're on this path, this bodhisattva path of really purifying the very, very subtle elements of those afflictive emotions, the doubts, the confusions, so on like that. And then we also are working on the purification of wisdom. What it is to be wisdom, what it is to have wisdom, what it is to recognize wisdom within ourselves. And this wisdom is, we first recognize it as being a human being with our human brain, but then we start experiencing it with our heart center, and we start recognizing it with our brain, and we start seeing that this little mind and this big mind, we start seeing as one mind. So this is the purification of the obscuration of wisdom, we would call this. And as we do that, or we're going through these levels now of being a bodhisattva in order to be able to do that. When we're able to rest, all of that, that's what I've talked about, this resting, we have that peace. We've been having moments of peace throughout all of this, but it hasn't been stable. It kind of comes and goes. We may have it for, a day or two, maybe a week. It's like being on vacation sometimes. You come back from your vacation and, you're really buzzed out. You don't want to get back into work and all this stuff that you have to do again. It's kind of like that, So we have this peace. We're working on this peace. We've seen these glimpses after glimpse of this peacefulness and so on, and then finally there's this threshold that we can cross over to become the Buddha, to become the awakened one. That we all have that Buddha nature within ourselves, but it's so subtle that we don't recognize that we're conflicted with all the stuff that is happening to us in this life. We're either distracted, we're seduced, we're challenged in so many different ways by all that stuff, and we wind up talking about all that stuff and thinking about all that stuff, and we totally miss the point of that subtlety, of that peacefulness. So then the question becomes, well, how do I stabilize that peacefulness? How do I make that more and more real? Well, to help us to do that, we can learn about the Bodhisattvas, the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, who is on that path to purify all these finer subtleties and so on. So that's what we're going to start to talk about tonight. Does anybody have any questions or comments about what I just said?
I had a comment. There's an antidote book. Can you hear me?
Yes.
There's a book. It's called The Empty Mirror. And it's about experiences in a Japanese Zen monastery. And it's about a Westerner's experience coming to embrace Buddhism, but in Japan, and how he attained enlightenment. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, author of Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism, says the empty mirror should be very encouraging for other Western seekers.
Sure.
That's just for helping maybe those listening to understand. There's a book that could that sums up.
There's another book called Glimpse After Glimpse by Sogyal Rinpoche that is great. That is very much like that. There's lots of books like that, So I encourage you to take a look at those things, because we can all give you 2 or 3 books names and everything, but sometimes, when you go to the bookstore or go to a library, you just see a book, you see a title, and it just kind of vibrates for you, and you say, well, let me take that book. And that's, call that the spiritual spontaneity connection or something like that. And it becomes a great book for you to read. So I wouldn't want to deny you that opportunity by saying, oh, well, you got to read this book or you got to read that book. Go find your own books.
Yes. I have one more thing to say. That number 37 is the first prime number that when it's reversed to the number 73, 73 is also a prime number. And it's really powerful, the number 37. And trying to figure out why 37 Bodhisattva practices instead of any other number.
That's a heck of a good question. I don't know. That's a great question. That's a great question. I used to be more of a scientist. I used to do astrology and numerology and do all that kind of stuff and everything. And I gave it up many years ago. But I didn't negate it. I just said it wasn't necessary anymore. True. It just became a whole of time. I just putting time into it and so on. And Buddhism has its version of that called the Kala Chakra. The Kala Chakra teachings are those scientific teachings in Buddhism, where the calendar is explained and all these signs, these zodiac signs and all that kind of stuff and all the scientific investigation. So Buddhism has all that too. And it's very easy for me to get seduced in that because I love that kind of stuff, but at the same time, I say, no, keep it simple. Go for the peace. Okay. Anybody else got a comment that I can step on?
Lance, you were talking about the goal of meditation earlier, and there was something that reminded me of that I was reading, the author's Weiner. And by the way, I want to read both those books that Gavin and Lance talked about. But he's in Bhutan exploring the happiest places on earth. Bhutan, of course, a very Buddhist country. And he's talking to a guy there whose name is Karma, coincidentally. And Karma is talking about the West and contrasting his experience with the West. And in the West, I think it's power and money, right? That's the pursuit of happiness, power, money, and pleasure. And Karma talk, he says, I have no such mountain to scale. Basically, I find that living itself is a struggle. And if I'm satisfied, if I have done just that, then the evening I say it was okay. And I think for me personally, getting rid of all that ego that I've got to do this, or I've got to be that, or I've got to be the CEO of this company, or I've got to, whatever, and I've got to have, be stinky rich. Getting rid of all of that has done a lot. And I don't know if that's just growing up or reading. I don't want to discount meditation. I'm sure that could take me to amazing places, but this has helped a lot. Initially, just getting rid of a lot of that ego and having an attitude more like Karma in this book of, hey, look, just getting through life is enough.
Yeah, just to be a holy person, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, as being a holy person, how wonderful it is to be a holy person.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter whether you're a Buddhist holy person or a Christian holy person or a Jewish holy person or Islamic, whatever, just to be a holy person is all those things together. I think is a wonderful thing. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Matt.
I was going to ask you this like privately, but maybe, and then if it seems like it's going to derail us, please just interrupt me or tell me. But like because I think it might be relevant in terms of what we're talking about. But what I was going to ask you is like about with my own practice, because kind of how I'm going about it. And the question is this how I should be doing it? Or is there like, this isn't the best? But I've been like really just, because like we've been building up all of these things as part of the practice. I've been just like really focusing on, I mentioned before, but like the four thoughts and then in the eight worldly dharmas. And even just like right now, just with like the precious human birth and the impermanence, and like almost all of my practice is just like focused on those two things. And like I'm not doing even too much of some of the other stuff. I might go through it quickly when I have more time, because it ends up taking a lot of time and like writing and trying to feel like, okay, what exactly does this mean? Trying to like make it as unreligious as possible, to be honest. Like, what exactly does this mean in my life? Like, when am I doing this? What is the actual result? And then like contemplating it. And for me, it's like, at least how I'm thinking about it now, I might do that for the next several months or something, just for me, it's like all the eight worldly dharmas is just what gets in the way of everything. And I guess my question for you, like, is that a good way to go about it? Or maybe that ultimately might not be, because I don't know. That just kind of was my intuition to do that this time around practicing.
It's a progression. And I think with doing that is great, but I think doing it after you do the motivational prayers.
Yeah, I do that.
Motivational prayers have a lot of power.
Yeah.
So the four thoughts that turn to mind come after that.
Yeah, I do the prayers first. Yeah.
All right, then great. And do you do the dedication at the end?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well that's really great. And when you're ready, you move on. You go to the next step after that, but you don't give up doing the motivational prayers, and you don't give up doing the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. You don't stop doing them.
Right.
You may do them quicker.
Yeah.
You don't spend as much time with them, but then you go to the next part that requires your attention. So yes, so you're doing the right thing.
Okay. There's not a downside to that I'm not thinking of or something. Okay.
From our point of view, that's the right way. That's the way we do it.
Okay.
If I can add, if it's helpful, I've been trying to sleep the same for a while, but like I'm from a culture that's a nice blend of East and West. And it seems like the West like needs this one answer, like that's what they're looking for. There's one answer for everything. And in the East, we're really comfortable with like, oh, we don't know. Like mysteries are very okay over there, if that makes sense.
That's correct. You're absolutely right.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And the East and the West coming together, that's one of the great gifts of the East that will help the West tremendously, you know, to give up this idea of the singularity, you know.
West is so solution oriented, and solutions aren't bad in and of themselves, but sometimes it implies to some people that there is an end to a process. And one thing that Buddhism has meant to me is that it's an unending type of journey.
And it's based on the idea that we can know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's our destiny. We are the masters of the universe. You know, that's ludicrous.
I had a quote.
That was the basis for the establishment of this country and its Western movement, the manifest destiny thing, which was a horrible thing.
You know, so the Buddha is not the master of all of the Buddha is the master of the relative, and by way of being able to rest in the absolute. Remember, we were talking about it yesterday, we talked about it weeks before, that there's the relative truth and there's the absolute truth. So the Buddha, the awakened one, is the master of the relative, because the Buddha, the awakened one, is the space in which the relative is hung, for lack of a better word, is suspended or is floating or is part of it or something like that.
Thanks.
So the Buddha is not a supreme being. The Buddha is not a creator. And to get specific about the words, you know, a religion speaks to the idea of a supreme being. It's man's relationship, human being's relationship with a supreme creator, a supreme being. And we're supplicating and praying and doing all that, you know, to the supreme being who can change our destiny with, you know, the wave, a gesture of a hand or something like that. And of course, you know, in Buddhism, it's a philosophy of the self in being able to let go of all these attachments, all these aversions to this relative nature that we are in, and being able to let it go as being permanent, to no longer see it as permanent, to let it go, to be able to say, well, I don't know. There's many possibilities. It could be any one of those possibilities, whatever it is. And I don't know, but I don't have to know. You know, I'm just a human being, which is a great thing at one level, but at another level, it pulls us back. So we need to be able to recognize the gifts of being a human being, but then not to hold on to them and to let them go so that we can transcend to whatever that other dimension is, or dimensions, or something like that. Does that make sense? So our process of going through this is enabling us to be able to do that letting go, to be able to identify that which is holding us back and be able to say, oh, I got to let that go. Gavin, did you want to say something? Or are you just gesturing that you like that?
Yeah. I was waving at Zara.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. You guys can chat if you want. Okay. All right. So anyway, so good points. I find these kind of discussions very good, very healthy. You know, sometimes by hearing what we say, is revealing to us our habitual tendencies. And the function of a teacher is to sometimes to say, okay, I got you, but we don't need to go down that hole. Excuse me if I'm stepping on anybody's ego here, but I don't mean to. But sometimes we just got to stop the confusion and say, okay, I can't allow myself to go down. It's bad enough I got that thought. Let me find out how I can transcend that thought. So that's what we're trying to do. So that's the function of the spiritual friend, is the one who sees that, who understands that, who has experienced something and can see that we just keep going around this spiral that is focused downward instead of a spiral that goes up. So sometimes you just got to say no. Okay, so can we move on to the 37 practices then? Everybody can see that, I presume. If you have any questions or comments, just turn your microphone on and come right in. So 37 practices of the Bodhisattvas by Ngülchu Thogme Zangpo, who lived, like I said, in the 13th century, 14th century. So he wrote, it starts off paying homage to Lokeshwara. Lokeshwara is the Bodhisattva of compassion. Lokeshwara is the Bodhisattva of compassion. So he's saying homage to Lokeshwara. I pay constant homage through my 3 doors to my supreme teacher and protector Shenrezig, who, while seeing all phenomena lack coming and going, makes single-minded effort for the good of living beings. So I pay homage to my 3 doors. What are the 3 doors? Anybody know this? You should speak right up. The 3 doors is your body, speech, and mind. Om Ahom. Om Ahom, body, speech, and mind. The crown, the throat, and the heart chakras. Those are the 3 doors. To my supreme teacher and protector, Shenrezig. Shenrezig is the Tibetan name for Lokeshwara. Lokeshwara is the Sanskrit name for the Bodhisattva of compassion. Shenrezig is his Tibetan name. So this particular teacher here, Zangpo, he was Tibetan. So who, while seeing all phenomena, this is what we've been talking about, while seeing all phenomena, we lack coming and going. We have stabilized. We see the phenomena, but we've stabilized from the coming and the going, the dualism. We become stable on the path. Make single-minded effort. This one-pointed mindfulness that we've been talking about, that we develop through these practices. That's why these practices are indispensable, and that they are a progression, and we need to maintain the progression. Otherwise, it will break apart at some point. Under stress, it'll break apart. So makes this single-minded effort for the good of living beings. The function of a bodhisattva is for the benefit of other beings, for the liberation of other beings. It's not a selfish motivation for oneself to attain liberation. Its liberation comes when all other beings are able to attain liberation. In the meantime, we endure. We endure all the changes. We endure all the confusions. We endure all the suffering that other beings are going through, And maybe at some level we are going through ourselves, but we're able to endure that because of our resolution to be able to commit to the practices and someone like that. So then it says, perfect Buddhas, source of all well-being and happiness, arise from accomplishing the excellent teachings, and this depends on knowing the practices. So I will explain the practices of Bodhisattvas. So the perfect Buddhas, source of well-being and happiness, the source of well-being and happiness, they're not the bankers, they're not the politicians, they're not the tradesmen who do things for us, or the merchants who sell us things and everything. These are the holy beings. These are the source of well-being and happiness. The holiness arise from accomplishing the excellent teachings of what this holiness is. And this depends on knowing the practices. That they got to be Buddhas by going through the process of being a beginner, being a practitioner, being a yogi or a yogini, and then being a bodhisattva, and then becoming Buddha. Because Buddhas are perfectly realized human beings. So the practices are what got them there. So I'll explain the practices of the Bodhisattvas, the holy enlightened beings. Bodhi means enlightened. Bodhi means enlightened. Sat is a being, and Va is a holy being. The enlightened holy beings, Bodhisattvas, a Sanskrit word, or 3 words. So the first one, it says, having gained this rare ship of freedom and fortune, here think and meditate unwaveringly night and day in order to free yourself and others from the ocean of cyclic existence. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. So this is basically everything that we've been talking about tonight. You know, this rare ship of freedom and fortune. Remember yesterday when, if you were with us, and we were talking about the 12 links, and we saw that boat with the man and woman in it, and we saw the pilot who was guiding the boat, and they were on this waterway. So this rare ship of freedom and fortune, that's what this is talking about. That's the metaphor. To hear, think, and meditate. So here, we're listening to the teachings. We're contemplating. We're thinking about what they mean. And we're meditating that we are allowing ourselves to transcend into the experience of what they are leading us to, unwaveringly, day and night, 24 hours a day, in order to free ourselves and others from the ocean of cyclic existence. The ocean of cyclic existence is the wheel of existence, the wheel of samsara that we've been talking about on Sundays, the 6 human realms. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. So it doesn't say I only do it 1 day a week. It doesn't say I only do it for 2 hours on that day. It says I do it all the time. So this is the first thing. This is a foundation that it becomes a lifestyle. The rest of our lives, we commit ourselves to become bodhisattvas, to whatever degree we can do that. You know, it may be just glimpses that we have of that during the rest of our life, and that's great. It may be that we progress to being a practitioner, maybe to be a yogi or a yogini, maybe even to be a bodhisattva, and maybe even to be a Buddha. But I will do that. The second is, attached to your loved ones, you stirred up like water. Attached to your loved ones, you are stirred up like water. Hating your enemies, you burn like fire. In the darkness of confusion, you forget what to adopt and what to discard. Give up your homeland. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. So this is one of the, second thing that's being said here, but this is one of the things that a lot of self-defeating people will cling to. They will go right to this and say, oh, I can't do this. I'm attached to my family too much. Oh, I hate my enemies so much, I have to burn like fire. I have to continue the conflict with my enemies. Oh, I'm just not aware of what's going on, and I'm never going to be aware. I'm just going to remain in darkness of confusion. So I totally forget of what to adopt and what to discard. I don't care, it doesn't matter to me. And I'm going to remain in my homeland. I'm going to remain in my homeland as being this ordinary phenomenal nature where I have my job, I have my family, I have my friends, my day-to-day routine. Give up that homeland is what this is saying. Give up that homeland and practice the Bodhisattva practice of creating your Buddha field. Your Buddha field, that this homeland now becomes your Buddha field, that you're purifying everything that is around you. It doesn't mean that you give up your loved ones. It doesn't mean that your family, that you discard them or that you abandon them. But you are compartmentalizing. You are saying there's something else that I need to pay attention. I have this gift of this life, and I need to be able to seize the opportunity for my spirituality. And I don't have to give up my loved ones. I don't have to abandon them to do that. But I do have to find a way to carve some time out for my development, for my cultivation of my Buddha field. Hating my enemies, and I burn like fire. So, I got to stop that. I mean, that is just very simple. We just got to stop that. There's no other solution to that. You don't do it a little bit at a time. You just say, I'm going to stop hating other beings. They may be stupid. They may be doing terrible things. They may be as bad as anything I could possibly imagine. But I have to recognize that they are like my mother, in the sense that all beings are like my mother. That I have to develop the love for these beings. I may not like them, but I got to find the love, and I got to stabilize the love for them, just like I would do for my mother. In the darkness of confusion, you forget what to adopt and what to discard. We talk about that in the Four Thoughts that Turn the Mind to the Dharma when we're talking about karma, that we say that we learn what it is that we need to take up in our lives and what it is that we need to discard, what we need to give away, what we don't need or just lay down. Not that we're giving it away, because if it's bad for us, it's going to be bad for somebody else too. So we just need to put it down. We just need to stop that. So that's a process of what to take up, of what to adopt, and what to give up, what to discard. This is the practice of the Bodhisattva. So you guys can print this. I sent this to you in the WhatsApp, so you can print this. If you want me to print it for you and mail it to you, please just let me know. Write me a note, and I'll be glad to print it and send it to you. But this is so important. You'll come back to this. I've been studying this for 20 some odd years. So the third one is, by avoiding bad objects, disturbing emotions, by avoiding bad objects, disturbing emotions gradually decrease. Without distraction, virtuous activities naturally increase. With clarity of mind, conviction in the teachings arise. Cultivate seclusion, This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. So by avoiding bad objects, things that we want to have, things that we maybe can't afford, or things that we have to work extra hard for and we really don't need, egocentric things, by avoiding those bad objects, maybe it's, it's not totally non-virtuous, but they're things that our ego attaches to. The disturbing emotions will gradually decrease. If we get rid of those bad objects, our disturbing emotions will calm down. We're controlling these things by getting rid of these things. Our emotions decrease. Without distraction, virtuous activities naturally increase. So if I turn off the TV, if I stop having the conversations that make me angry or something like that, if I stop doing those distracting things, then what's going to come up, that I'm going to have more time for virtuous activities. I'm going to be able to study more. I'm going to be able to read more. I'm just going to be able to meditate more. I'm going to be able to contemplate more. I'm going to have more free time because I'm not following these distractions. And with clarity of mind, with the clarity of mind that comes from all this, conviction in the teachings arise. So the more that I'm following the teachings, the more that I'm applying the teachings, that there's more clarity, there's more understanding, there's more seeing that it's real. Remember, we talked about the three trusting faiths, the trusting and the yearning faith. That we have this yearning that there's something that is beyond all this mundane stuff. There's something beyond that. There's something spiritual that I want to understand. Then I trust in the teacher. I trust in the method. I trust in the books that are leading me in that direction. And then I have the clear faith that I have realized something. Oh, yes, this really does work. So with clarity of mind, conviction in the teachings arise, that clarity of the teachings. So to do this, cultivate seclusion. This is the practice of the Bodhisattva. So we need to be able to have a place that we can go to in our home, a room, a corner of a room, some time, a half an hour, 15 minutes, an hour, whatever you can do, cultivate that seclusion. Give yourself that peace to be able to develop that peace of mind that stays with you when you leave that secluded place. Maybe it's when you can go on vacation, when you can go to the Dharma Center. There's different things that we can do to give ourselves the opportunity to cultivate that seclusion. So this is a practice of a bodhisattva. Number 4 is loved ones who have long kept company will part. They write this very pithy. Loved ones who have long kept company will part. Loved ones who have long kept company will part. Wealth created with difficulty will be left behind. Consciousness, the guest, will leave the guest house of the body. Let go of this life. This is the practice of the Bodhisattva. So this is another one of those very difficult things where, people go off, and say, oh, what does this mean? What am I going to give everything up? Am I going to cut my hair and go to a monastery? Do I have to do that? Well, we do it by degree. We do it a little bit at a time. Loved ones who have long kept company will part. We will lose friends. People will stop calling us. We will not even recognize, we will not even remember that they stopped calling. Because our time has been focused now on virtue, on wholesomeness. And those that were non-virtuous, those that were causing us problems or something, they'll leave. They'll say, oh, Lance isn't any more fun anymore. We used to have such fun. We used to be able to sit down and tell stories and drink and laugh and do all kinds of things and everything. But that goes away. Wealth created with difficulty will be left behind. So the things that we maybe really had to work for, that didn't come easy to us, that we didn't enjoy doing, but we were doing it for the sake of the money. We were doing it for the sake of the power. We weren't doing it to help anybody. We were doing it out of greed. These things will be left behind. We'll recognize, oh, I'm just being greedy by trying to do these things. I'm just going to leave that go. The consciousness, the guest, will leave the guest house of the body. So this consciousness that we're talking about, that this consciousness of our physical body. How much time do we spend on our physical body? The clothes that we wear, the hair, the way we comb our hair, that we go to the shop to get an expensive haircut or something like that, and the type of car that we drive, all these kinds of things, this consciousness of being in the body and making that the most important thing, this consciousness will leave the guest house of the body and then will become this spirituality. It will recognize this as spiritual consciousness rather than the physical or intellectual consciousness. Let go of this life. This is the practice of the Bodhisattva. So what that means is that we're letting go of this mundane, selfish life that is full of confusion, full of darkness, full of desire, full of all the negativities. And so we're going to let go of all that. We're going to hold the good stuff. We're going to hold the love. We're going to have compassion. We're going to have joy. We're going to have equanimity towards all beings. We're going to hold on to that. But we're holding on to it just because it comes naturally to us. It's not that we have to work at it very hard. So we're going to follow the path of least resistance. Does this make sense? Does anybody have any comments about these first four things? I mean, is this being helpful to you, you think?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Can you see where this is kind of going? We're replacing some things in our lives with some very pointed, virtuous things. This is the goal. This is our goal. This is where the peace is.
Matt, I was going to ask if you could resonate with this, like in listening to you talk about stuff over the last few weeks, like do you feel some of that shifting for you?
Yeah, starting to some and just becoming more aware of it, even if it hasn't changed, of just like, oh, this is the same thing that's keeping me suffering, with because I know you're practicing a lot with that too, with the four thoughts and everything. I was talking about it earlier too. Yeah. So yeah, what do you think for you?
Yeah, like it was funny. I remember there was a distinct shift. I made a joke about this, but Saturday night became my date night with Lance to do movies. Like I no longer had any desire to do HBO, Game of Thrones. And I was like, I wanted to hang out with Gary and Lance and watch Tibetan movies. Like it was like that was it. Like that was like a date in my calendar. It was really cool when I realized what was happening. I had no desire to binge watch reality TV.
Yeah.
We should resurrect that. Get back to Noble Film Night.
We should.
Noble Film Night, the four noble films.
Yeah, that would be great. It's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a collection of films that are really great. Okay. Any other comments or questions? And we'll press on to the next few of these 5 practices of Bodhisattva.
Lance,
Lance,
I'm sorry, Gavin, please.
I noticed that this yellow book.
Yes.
It's written differently, but it still reads the same.
Yeah, I said
It's
that.
just
Yeah.
okay.
It's a slightly different English translation from
Yeah.
the original Tibetan. Yes. And this yellow book, this is the one that I grew up with, so we still have a few copies of it left, and it's my favorite translation because that's what I first read, But there's several other translations that are very, very good. And that's what we're doing, a different English translation. Emma, did you want to say something? No?
Not particular thing.
Okay. I thought somebody else was going to say something.
I was gonna ask Lance, can you say again? You already kind of spoke to it, but what they mean by the word homeland? I'm going back to number 2 with the giving up your homeland. That's
Just
always confusing me.
your homeland, where it is that you live, whatever town it is, whatever community it is, what your family house and all that, it's giving that up for the sake of creating a Buddha field. You're transforming it. And you'll start collecting, my house is crazy, man. I got all these pictures and stuff like that because I love being in the midst of all that. It just reminds me of being, who I'm trying to be, a holy person, so I'm transforming my mundane house into a palace of spirituality.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
Brendan.
Number 2, attached to your loved ones, you're stirred up like water. That's one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. Because there's a big difference. I mean, we should all provide for our children, obviously. We should take care of them and love them. But there's a big difference between doing that versus what a lot of people do, which is what I do, which is worry excessively about them, right? And worry excessively about our ability to provide for them. So that really resonated with me.
Yes. Yes. And that's what our families do, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. We love them, but they are just a pond of emotions.
Yeah. Lance, I apologize. I have to step away for a second if you already covered this, but in the first one, I'm trying to find it.
The first one?
Yeah.
Having the
where you're perceived. Oh no, it's not. It's even before that. It's in the first paragraph. While seeing all phenomena lack coming and going. So you, because you're a bodhisattva, see that all phenomena lack coming and going, but the rest of those of us that are not there yet cannot. Is that a good understanding?
Yeah, that they're still coming and going.
Okay.
They're still sucked into the dualistic myriad changes that are happening all the time.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So anybody else have anything to say, just come right on up and talk, please. So now we go to this next part, is 5. It says, when you keep their company, your 3 poisons increase. Your activities of hearing, thinking, and meditating decline, and they make you lose your love and compassion. Give up bad friends. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. So this is another way of restating what we were talking about a little bit before. But here, when you keep their company, your 3 poisons increase. So talking about difficult people, the 3 poisons of ignorance, desire, and hatred, but also jealousy and greediness can rise up along with that. So when you keep their company, your 3 poisons increase. Your activities of hearing, thinking, and meditating decline, because if you're thinking about these emotions, then that kind of suppresses, that pushes down your meditative studies and so on. So hearing, thinking, and meditating, that's when we say, in our dedication prayer, just to point this out, you probably remember it yourselves, but if you look on page 20 in your prayer book, the 101 prayer books, the last stanza in the prayer book, it says, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. But if our poisons are increasing, it's going to push these hearing, thinking, and meditating down. So we need to be able to overcome that. So it says, they make you lose your love and compassion. So that's what this give up bad friends. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. So we have to make a choice. Sometimes it's a brother-in-law, sometimes it's somebody at work, and you do what you can for them. You send them love from your heart. You send them skillful means, method from your heart, compassion from the heart, but maybe you're not going to engage with them because all it does is raise up your anger. All it does is raise up your desire or something. Maybe it's, certain people that make you want to possess them. Our TV shows and movies and magazines are full of all kinds of suggestive, sexual things that are rising up our desire for these things. And we have to recognize that and say, you know what? I got to stop paying attention to that kind of stuff. I got to purify my stuff from that. So it can be things like that too. So we need to give up negative friends, give up negative of focal points. Number 6, when you rely on them, your faults come to an end and your good qualities grow like waxing moon. Cherish spiritual teachers even more than your own body. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. So when you rely on your bad friends, your faults, wait a minute, what's this say? Oh, no, sorry. It says, when you rely on them, your faults come to an end and your good qualities grow like the waxing moon. So who are we talking about? Who are these them? These are our spiritual teachers. So it's saying, rely on your spiritual teachers and your faults will come to an end and your good qualities will grow like the waxing moon. The waxing moon is the moon that is going from a new moon up to a full moon. So that's the waxing moon. The waning moon is going in the opposite, where the full moon is going back to the new moon. So cherish your spiritual teachers even more than your own body. This is a practice of the Bodhisattvas. So this is a very difficult thing for many of us, but it's one that is a mindfulness practice, that our spiritual teachers are magnificent. And we look at them and we honor them and we do for them. And sometimes we will go out of our way. We will give them that which is our last thing. We will give it to them because we honor them and we want to show them our devotion. And by doing that is a purification of selfishness. So spiritual teachers, even more than your own body. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. This is, a Bodhisattva is not hung up on how much money is in the bank, is not hung up on the car that they drive, and not hung up on their material things and so on. And they're ready to share all those things. They're ready to share their time. They're ready to give whatever energy they can to their spiritual teachers and to the work of their spiritual teachers, that they are teaching the Dharma. They are practicing their compassion by doing for others. So we are supporting them in every way that we can. Number 7 is bound himself in the jail of cyclic existence. What worldly God can give you protection? Therefore, when you seek refuge, take refuge in the 3 jewels, which will not betray you. This is the practice of the Bodhisattvas. So bound himself. We're talking about worldly gods. So when we talked about the Deva gods, when we were talking about the 6 realms of human beings, so bound himself in that jail of cyclic existence, of being totally immersed in their pleasure, that they were not paying attention to the suffering of other beings. And they didn't realize, though, that they were in this jail of cyclic existence, that they were on this wheel of existence. For them, they were just in this like heaven that they have created for themselves. You know, they did good things, but now they're doing a very bad thing by not being compassionate, by being selfish in their pleasure and not helping other beings. So therefore, when you seek refuge, don't seek refuge in those worldly gods. Don't seek, compassion from them. Take refuge in the 3 jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. For they will not betray you. This is the practice of the Bodhisattva. So the body, speech, and mind of the enlightened ones. And that is within you. We're learning to recognize that indestructible jewel that we have in our heart center, that we've had from the moment we were conceived, that we keep with us throughout our lives. And when we pass, when our body dies, we eject that consciousness, we eject that spirituality. So we take refuge in that spirituality in the 3 jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So we have to cultivate our awareness of that. So that's what we're involved in. 8, the subduer said, all unfavorable suffering of bad rebirths is the fruit of wrongdoing. Therefore, even at the cost of your life, never do wrong. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. The subduer said, all unfavorable suffering of bad rebirths is the fruit of wrongdoing. The subduer here would be the Buddha, the enlightened one, who has subdued all the negativity, all the confusion, all the evil doings and so on, has been subdued, and said that all this unbearable suffering that we've been going through of bad rebirths is the fruit of wrongdoing that we have done ourselves. We've caused this. We are the cause of the karma and the results of those actions of karma. So therefore, even at the cost of your own life, never do wrong. This is the practice of bodhisattva. So if we place ourselves above other beings who are doing us harm, and we say, oh, I can punish that person, I can kill that person. That person may be coming to me and doing harm, but my life is greater than theirs. I'm going to kill them before they have a chance to kill me. That's an extreme example of thinking that you are better than somebody else. Now, I understand that we have responsibilities to our families and so on, but if we kill somebody, even in the defense of ourselves or other people, we've still killed somebody. And we're still likely to be happy that we did that because we're still living. And that becomes a fault. That becomes a wrong deed that we did. We need to look at this and say, what can I do to subdue that person without bringing them that great harm? Maybe I can find a way to wrestle them down to the ground. Maybe I can throw a chair at them. Maybe there's many different things I can do. Maybe I can run away. Maybe I can get out of here. Maybe I can lock the door. There might be other choices. But we never can give up the responsibility for what we do when we do negative things. We can rationalize it. I understand there's mitigating circumstances, but we need to be able to sacrifice our own self for the benefit of someone else. So that takes a lot of courage to do that, a lot of faith, etc. Number 9 is like the dew on the tip of a blade of grass. Pleasures of the 3 worlds last only a while and then vanish. Aspire to the never-changing supreme state of liberation. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. So like the dew on the tip of a blade of grass. So, you know, in the morning time when the sun is coming up and there's dew on it, all of a sudden that dew just disappears in an instant, just like that. The pleasures of the 3 worlds last only a while and then vanish. So like that, the pleasures of the 3 worlds. The 3 worlds are the there's many ways to describe this, but we could say that there's like a below ground, there's a ground, and there's above ground. We can talk about that there's a desire realm, the desire ground, there's a desireless ground, and there's a formless ground. So there's many ways to look at that, but the pleasures of the 3 worlds, of this physical world that we live in, these pleasures only last a short time. You know, maybe we'll live to be 60, 70, 80, 100 years old, but in the scope of all of time as we conceptualize it, it's just a click of a finger. So all these things just go. So we need to aspire to the never-changing supreme state of liberation. This is the practice of the Bodhisattva. So this state of liberation, this is that space that I have talked about. This is that peace that I have talked about, that no matter where we are, no matter what form we take, whether we're a human being or something that might be in another dimension, or something that might be below us, even as an animal or something, that never-changing supreme state of liberation is the practice of the Bodhisattva, that state of peace, of quietude. This is what we are trying to develop for ourselves. At some point in, we could say, our lifetime, we will experience that. If no other time before that, we'll experience it when we die. When our physical body dissolves, that we go through the bardo of death, the intermediate state of death, into the bardo of reality. And are we prepared to remain in that freedom? I know we've talked about this before, but here is being said to us again. Aspire to the never-changing supreme state of liberation. This is the practice of bodhisattvas. And we can attain that level in this life as a human being. It may not be completely stable, but it can become so important that we're working on it all the time. We're aware of the possibility of it all the time. So I'm going to leave it here. So we'll come back to number 10 next time and continue this conversation. Should we continue this conversation? Is this good? The 37 practices?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, good. So you can print this. I've said I'll put it in there. I ask you to print it, or at the very least, download it onto your digital device and save it. And you can read it when you got a few minutes. You can go over what we've gone over. You can read ahead and start processing this and start recognizing this and saying, yes, these are ideals of what it is that I aspire to be. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions now?
I assume that the book that you recommended of the same name at the beginning, that has more content than just the PDF. Is that correct? It goes into more detail
What, the little yellow book?
No, the one, it's called the same title. I'll show you a picture.
Way of the Bodhisattva?
The 37, yeah, Way of
The
the Bodhisattva.
37, the 37, the 37 ways of the Bodhisattva.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that is by Shantideva.
Yes.
Yes, and that is a commentary, if you will, on the 37 practices.
Okay.
So yes, so that is a great book to read, and there's a great story behind that that we don't have time to go into right now, but I would love to. But yes, the 37 ways of the Bodhisattva is wonderful. That's a great teaching. It's called the Buddha Charyavatara Sutra. That's not a sutra. The Buddha Charyavatara.
I have this little book too that I got like a very long time ago. I don't know if they sell them at the center or if there's ways of getting them, but it's a short little kind of booklet, and it's like Garchen. I guess it's like transcript of Garchen Rinpoche's teachings on the 37 practices.
Yes.
If people are interested, in like really short and pithy kind of thing, but like an explanation of each. That's pretty cool.
Yes, and that's Dharma Surya has that book and a number of other books. There's another one there that Khenpo Samdup has done a commentary on. So yeah, so there's a lot of things that, that bookstore is really great. And downstairs, you need permission to go downstairs, but there is a lending library downstairs of books that people have donated to the center that you can borrow and take home and read as long as you want. And if you want to purchase them, you can make a donation and you can keep them. But if you want to read them, then bring them back, take some more books, you're welcome to do that. But they may not be in pristine, pristine condition. People may have made notes or something. But so you're welcome to do that. And there's a wealth of books there. There's English books, there's Vietnamese books, there's Zen books, there's Japanese books, Chinese books, all in those different languages. And there's children's books too. So if you wanted to share some of these teachings with your children, there are some picture books that have some stories in them that would be very good for you to familiarize yourself with and maybe share with your kids or grandkids. Okay. So unless there's somebody else have anything else to say? And our umze for the evening is Gary. Gary, would you do the dedication prayers and begin on page 18 and continue through to page 22, please? Everybody recite along with Gary.
Lineage dedication prayer. Dorje Cheng, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Lord Gampopa, Thogme Drupa, and Lord Drinkumpa, please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue, may I achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri the warrior realized the ultimate state, and as did Samattabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all the merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. Dakorma prayer. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, May I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Rinpoche Ratna Shri, who is omniscient Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Dedication prayer by Lord Jingten Sumgön. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root, and lineage lamas, divine assembly of Yidams, assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogins, Yoginis, and Dakinis, dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate root of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Shravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Maras and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise even for a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that, may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om, Ah, Hong. Om, Ah, Hong. Om, Ah, Hong.
May my body,
speech, and mind be inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones.
for the benefit.
For the benefit of all sentient beings.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I lost that for a moment.
It's
Thank you,
okay.
Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. You did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. If anybody wants me to print this for them and mail it to them, I can do that. Otherwise, I'm leaving it up to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lance.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
night.
Good night. See you Thursday night if you want to join us for Medicine Buddha on Thursday night on this Zoom. So this is our new Zoom address for everything.
See you
Thank
there.
you, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Hi, Alex.
Yeah, hi. I didn't realize this is a new Zoom address. So, but then I thought, well, how come it cannot be? Lance have not told us.
Well, I
that,
did.
Well, I mean, you probably did at the beginning of last session or something,
Right.
which I